I kind of just want to give you guys like a brief overview of my makeup drawers. So these are my everyday makeup drawers. This is where I sit and film and do all of my makeup. So all these products are things that I reach for very, very frequently, and I would call most of them favorites. So for today's declutter, I'm going to pull out primers, foundations, concealers. Blush and bronzer will be a separate video. Powders, and then setting sprays. And then I have some more powders over here. And then the rest of my makeup is in these organizers right here from IKEA. And then going into my IKEA organizer, this is what my foundation and concealer drawer looks like. And it is just so much. It is unorganized. I can't find anything. I don't even know what's in here half the time. And I've just been itching to go through this drawer and declutter. And one reason why is because I've kind of recently stopped self-tanning altogether. I used to be an avid self-tanner, so when I would buy foundation, I'd have like my tan shade and then my pale shade. But now that I've stopped self-tanning as much as I used to, I don't need all of these foundations in my deeper shades. I can take this drawer out. Oh, this is nice. Okay, perfect. My goal is to move everything on the floor so it'll be easier to go through everything that way. All right, and then in this drawer is all of my other primers, powders, and setting sprays. I want to start off this declutter pretty easily, and I'm going to start with the products that were already living in my makeup desk, in my drawers, like the products that I do reach for on a daily basis, because I'm pretty sure like 99% of these products I'm going to keep, but I do want to quickly show you and kind of walk you through them a bit. Okay, starting this off is super easy with my NARS Soft Matte Concealers. This is my go-to concealer for spot concealing on my face, and I am going to keep my light shade Vanilla and my tan shade Custard. I had to change my camera settings there for a second, so sorry if this looks different, but another easy keep for me are my under eye correctors. I have the Sigma one and the Catrice one. Next I have some kind of lighter weight foundations that I've really been liking recently. I have the Sigma Skin Perfector in the shade 2. This one gives a really nice hydrating glow to the face. I'm actually wearing this one today, even though you can't see my face. I'm also back to loving the Catrice Nude Drop Tinted Serum, and this is a great shade match for me when I'm pale, because that is something I do struggle with, so I use the shade 10N. And I really like this because it has quite a bit of coverage for being such a lightweight feeling foundation. And then believe it or not, I actually do kind of like the Jones Road WTF foundation. I don't really wear this on camera ever because it's not a good foundation for camera, but for every day, if I just want something a little hydrating with a bit of coverage, this actually looks really, really nice on my skin just on its own. I have the YSL All Hours foundation. I have the shade LN3. Now I've been loving this one for a more glam full coverage foundation, but again, it is so lightweight on the skin and it has a bit of a matte finish to it, but it's not too matte. Next I have the Salt New York. This is the Sneaky Balm, and I believe this is the lightest shade. I think the shade is 10. I'm not entirely sure, but this is such a cool product, and it's actually the perfect shade match for me. Like, it blends seamlessly into my skin. I'll show you here. Like, you literally can't even see that. Like, the undertone of this is just perfect for my skin tone. And this product just has the tiniest bit of coverage, but it has a nice little glow in it, so it looks very, very natural on the skin. If you're someone that just needs like a touch of coverage, I think you would really like this. So this is another product that I don't really wear on camera a lot, but I do wear it on just like a daily basis. And then I've really been into the Fenty Beauty Soft Lip Foundation. My lighter shade is the shade 150. This is still like a tad bit too dark for me, but I can make it work as long as I blend it down my neck. I've really been loving how this foundation looks on me. I love the soft glow that it has while also having a really nice medium coverage. And then I have the Makeup by Mario foundation. I have the shade 1C. Now this is also probably one of the best shade match foundations I have in my collection, and it's actually signed by Mario. They did like a little TikTok contest where they wanted you to post a video using just like one pump of the foundation and post the video, whatever, tag the brand, and I was like, sure, I'll do that for funsies, and I won, I guess, and so I got a bunch of products that were signed by Mario himself. So that's pretty fun. Now I wouldn't say I'm like obsessed with my foundation. It's definitely not in like my top 3, but I keep this one just because the shade match is so good, and like I said, that's something that I struggle with a lot. Then I also have the Merit foundation stick. I have the shade Bone. This one blends in really nicely too. I'll kind of use this in place of my NARS Soft Matte Concealer. Like, if there's a day where I don't want to wear foundation but I want to conceal, this one might be a little too heavy on its own, I'll just use this Merit one instead. So that is another keep for sure. Let's go through these concealers really quick. This is going to be easy to do. The Natasha Denona High Glam Concealer is my favorite concealer, so this is the shade that I use most of the time. It is R2, of course, gonna keep this. Then I also have 2 other shades of this, and I'm pretty sure this shade N3, it's pretty deep for me at this point, so I think I'm gonna declutter this one, but I am gonna keep this other shade RN3 because I like the rosy tone of this for under my eyes, and I can only use this one when I have a tan on, but because it's my favorite concealer, I'm gonna keep it. Then the other 2 in here, I have the Huda Beauty Concealer. I have a really light shade Honey. This is another really good shade match for me, and I love the full coverage coverage of this, so I'm going to keep that. And then this is the newer Bare Minerals Bare Pro Matte Concealer. I have the shade 150 Cool, and I do like this shade match a lot, but I really wouldn't call it a matte concealer. It's definitely more of a satin finish, but I do think it's a good one, so I'm going to hang on to it. Let's go through these primers. So I've kind of been more into like a blurred soft matte finish, and so when I want that look, I usually grab for one of these 3 primers. I really like the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I've used quite a bit of this, honestly. This is a great just like drugstore primer just to smooth out your skin. I have the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer. I really do like this one as well. I'm happy that it's not as silicone-y as like the Smashbox one, because like this one feels so slippery on your skin. I mean, now that I have this in my hands, I think I'm going to declutter it because I'd rather use like any of these 3 other primers. I think what happened is that Smashbox sent this to me in PR, and I just wanted to try it again because it's been so long, and kind of realized I just don't like it anymore. So I'm going to keep Huda, and then I have the Benefit Professional Matte Primer. Now this one also came out this year, and I actually really did like the original Professional primer. This one doesn't really have that like smoothness. This one does have a different texture, and it does mattify the skin just ever so slightly. So on those days where I just have more oily skin, this is perfect for that. And then also in here, I have this Ciate London Perfecting Putty. Now, I didn't think I was gonna like this, but I really have been enjoying it, and I've used quite a bit. Just for those days where my skin is a bit more textured, my pores maybe look a bit larger, I love using this to kind of fill in those pores. And it really does like blur and mattify, but I know a lot of brands do carry this type of primer. I have the Merit Great Skin Priming Moisturizer. Now I use this one on days where my skin feels more dry. I've learned about my skin this year, and now that I got off birth control, I've been using natural cycles for the entire year just to track my cycle, is that my skin really does change where I'm at in my cycle. During the first half of my phase, the follicular phase, my skin is a bit more dry, and during the second half, my luteal phase, my skin is a bit more oily. So that's kind of why I like to keep a mixture of primers. So I use this one on the dry skin days. And then I have a mini of the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. Now, I don't really use this one that often because by this point when I'm doing my makeup, I've already done my skincare, and this is a very just like hydrating moisturizer. I honestly just might put this downstairs with my skincare because I find that I don't use it a lot when I keep it up here with my makeup, so I'm actually going to keep this but just move it downstairs. Then last I have the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Primer. Don't really know if I feel a specific way about this. It is a dewy primer, it has a bit of a glow to it. It does have that stickiness. It almost smells like too artificial for me. Like, you know, it smells like that watermelon Jolly Rancher that Glow recipe does a lot. And I'm always like, should I be putting this super artificial fragrance on my face even though it smells delicious? I don't know. I just don't know if this primer really does much for me, and it is a really dewy finish, and I don't really go for a super dewy finish anymore with my primers and my foundations. I actually think I could declutter this one. Okay, let's go through these powders. I actually have a lot of powders that I've really enjoyed recently, and I just kind of rotate through these ones a lot. So first of all, this packaging is the Hourglass Veil Primer, but inside is the Huda Beauty powder in the shade Pound Cake or Shortcake, whatever light cake shade it is. Because I bought the mini of the Huda Beauty powder, and turns out I absolutely hate that packaging, so I dumped it into this one that I finished earlier this year actually. There's really not a ton of powder left, so once I finish this, I'm definitely gonna buy a full size of the Huda Beauty. I think that's my favorite loose powder, at the moment at least. Next I have the Lunar Beauty Translucent Powder. Now this is probably my favorite powder of last year. It's still beautiful, still just like super silky on the skin. And then this was a newer launch this year too for Makeup Forever. This is the HD Skin Setting Powder. Again, it's just another solid powder. I still don't like it as much as a Huda Beauty, but I still do really enjoy it. It's just a beautiful powder, and I find that this one does a really good job at setting my makeup. I guess I'd say that the Huda Beauty one is the one that I use for more of like full glam. I want my makeup to last all freaking day, where I can use this one as more like an everyday kind of basis. Okay, so then I got this in PR from Huda Beauty. This is the shade Cherry Blossom Cake, and it's pretty pink. I don't find myself using it or wanting to reach for it, even though I see it in my drawer every day. Because I know that I keep passing on it, I am going to declutter this. I think it's just a bit too deep of a pink shade for me. Again, I am so fair. Okay, and then I have this dusty ass Hourglass Trio. I have had this for so long. I want to say this was like one of my first Hourglass purchases, and I still haven't even like hit pan on this yet. I really don't get any use out of this shade right here, but I try my best to use this one right here in the middle. It's kind of like a little brightening shade. Maybe I don't want like a real highlighter, so I'll just use this instead. But I know this powder is so old. But I also know over here I have another Hourglass powder. Okay, I'm really struggling. I cannot decide. This powder is just so beautiful, but I like to use this on days maybe maybe I mattified my skin too much. Maybe I used too much of my Huda Beauty powder, so I need to add a little bit of life back to my face. That's what I use this powder for. But I don't think I want to keep these in my everyday makeup drawer right now because I do kind of want to rotate some things out, so I'm going to put these aside. These are all a super easy keep for me. I have the Kosas Cloud Set powder. The shade I use for all over my face is Airy. This packaging freaking sucks. This happens to every single one that I buy, but that's how good the product is because I will look past the bad packaging and just buy the amazing powder. But this just does a great job at blurring and smoothing the skin, but I highly recommend this powder if you have dry skin because it doesn't dry out your skin like some powders do. Like the Huda Beauty one really does mattify and blur. This one sets and blurs, but it doesn't dry your skin out. And then this one just launched this year. They added some kind of like color correcting brightening powder. So this is the pink one, Candy Cloud Set with the lash attached to it. This one I'll use kind of more for brightening under my eyes. I know I just decluttered this Huda Beauty one, but this one is much of a lighter color. These two also launched this year. This is the Tower 28 pressed powder. I kind of feel like it was the year of the powder almost. So I have two shades of this powder. I have the translucent one and then the pink shade. Honestly, I don't know if I need to have two pink powders. This translucent one I do use a lot. I used it today on my face. I'm gonna keep this. But looking at these two, this is Tower 28, this is Kosas. I definitely prefer the shade of the Kosas one. So I really don't think I need to keep both, so I'm gonna declutter the Tower 28 one. This powder is still great, but I just don't need two pink powders, and this one is still so new. And then last powder in here is my beloved Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Finish powder. This is such a good one. I've gone through like 3 of these compacts at this point. So the difference between these 3 powders is that the Charlotte Tilbury one has a little bit of coverage in it, but it also does a beautiful job at setting and blurring. This one kind of does a little bit of everything, honestly. It is one that I will keep in my collection like forever. Then my last little drawer over here is setting sprays. Oh, I also have some puffs in here. Okay, so out of these setting sprays in here, the Charlotte Tilbury is my absolute favorite one. This is a newer bottle. I finished one of these this year. It just sets my makeup beautifully, sinks everything into my skin. Like this does everything I want a setting spray to do. It is my favorite one. Now the rest of these, I'm honestly just kind of meh about. I have this Milk Hydra one, and I know this looks like it's almost halfway gone, but I literally use this to like wet my sponge. I don't spray my face with this because it doesn't do anything. So I almost kind of use this as water. So don't recommend this, but I'm going to keep it for that purpose. This is the Cali Ray Surf Proof Spray. I believe I bought this last year or the year before because I heard so many people raving about this and I keep trying to finish it and I just never reach for it. Like, why would I reach for this if I have the best setting spray ever? So I'm gonna declutter this one. I don't need to hang on to it anymore. I don't really like it. And then I have the Urban Decay All Nighter. This is the watermelon scent, and I gotta say, I think I just prefer the regular All Nighter spray because that one really does make your makeup last longer. I think I just don't like this fake watermelon scent. Like, it smells really good, but it just feels so wrong to put that on my face. And then the sprayer on this one is a bit messed up. It like doesn't spray straight. So I'm gonna put this aside and maybe look at what other setting sprays I have and decide in a bit once I go through everything else. And then I have this Baby NYX matte setting spray. This one is pretty close to being done too, and this really is a mattifying spray, so I don't use this all the time, but it does come in handy on those days where I'm just extra oily, because it definitely happens. So I'm gonna keep this one. Okay, now we need to go through these actual drawers, so I'm going to organize and kind of lay everything out. Okay, I've made a few piles. These are like my tan shades. These are my pale shades. I already know I'm gonna declutter these. This is the Charlotte Tilbury foundation that launched this year, and it's a glowy stick. I don't like this, so I'm gonna declutter it. I have some more under eye products, and then these are a few shades down here that I'm kind of questionable about. I don't know if they're really my light or tan shade, but I'm gonna be doing quite a bit of swatches today because I need to keep the shades that actually work for me. I actually want to start this off with my tan shades because, like I said, I am just not self-tanning as frequently as I used to. I used to self-tan every single week, like pretty much since high school, but honestly these last 3 or 4 months I really have slowed down and just don't really like the hassle and how much work it is to actually self-tan and to maintain the tan. It's a lot of work, and I'm just kind of over it at this point. And so because of that, I know that I don't need to keep all of these foundations that are in a deeper shade. Okay, looking right at this, I already know this one size foundation, it's bit too much. It's a bit too full coverage. I do have it in a few shades. There's like another one over here. I have this shade because these were all sent to me in PR. So I already know that this one, Light 40G, that's a golden shade that's a bit too yellow on me. Even when I was tan, it just looked a bit too much. So that's a declutter. I'm gonna swatch these two out. So we have Light 20N and then Light 30NG. Those are both terrible shade matches for me. Look at how orange that one looks. Definitely decluttering the Light 30NG. That is just like peach on me. It's kind of crazy. But I will say this foundation itself is a really nice full coverage foundation, but it still doesn't feel too thick on the skin. Because some other full coverage foundations I have, like this Hourglass one, like this one kind of has a bit of a thicker consistency to it, but this one does feel very lightweight. This is what I'm questioning myself. See, I know this shade, no, it's too dark, it's too yellow. I'm just done like trying to make foundation shades work. I need to be a lot pickier about the foundations that I choose to keep in PR and only keep them if they're the right shade. Maybe ask the brand if to send me a new shade if it's not correct. Like I need to be a lot more particular about this so there'd be less waste, you know? If this was a better shade match for me, I probably would hang on to it, but because it's not, I'm gonna declutter it. Look at how good my nails look with this. Okay, I'm looking at this Bare Minerals Bare Pro foundation. This is the Skin Perfecting Matte Foundation. I don't like the shade, and this foundation kind of separates in the bottle. It's kind of gross looking, so I'm not going to keep it. So I do have it in two shades. This one is Light 22 Warm. Again, I just know this is too dark on me. And this one, this is Light 21 Cool. It looks pretty pink in here. Let's see how this looks. I'm still like trying to figure out my undertone. Sometimes I wonder if I have a bit of like a pale olive undertone. I don't know. It's so confusing. Even I get confused about it, you know? I probably shouldn't keep that, right? Okay, decluttering both Bare Minerals liquid matte foundations. I was talking earlier about the Fenty Beauty Soft Lip Foundation. Now this is one I do have in my deeper shade. This is 185, and I'm going to hang on to this one. Ooh, this Rare Beauty foundation has made it through quite a few declutters, but I just don't think I like it. I don't love a doe foot applicator, and I don't really like the consistency of this one. It's a bit too serum-y for me, and sometimes it feels like it's almost suffocating my skin. I don't know if that makes sense, but also I just don't think I like it that much, so I'm gonna declutter this one finally. This Too Faced Healthy Glow foundation was kind of one of my go-tos like last year and kind of in the summer. It's a really good lightweight tinted moisturizer, but I think this has gone a little bit bad. It looks kind of funky in here. I really did love this one, but I think I'm gonna declutter it. Okay, I'm looking at this Makeup by Mario one that is still in the box, again because I received quite a few shades when I won that like little TikTok thing. This is 3W. I'm just not even gonna open this or anything. I'm going to donate this immediately because it is unopened. What's nice about foundations in general, if they are in like these typical kind of pump foundations like this, these are really easy to donate, but products like the Rare Beauty one with the reusable applicator are not. And in case you're wondering, I do like to donate a lot of my makeup to a Project Beauty Share and You From Me. Okay, moving along, this is the Fenty Beauty Stick Foundation. I love this one in the summer, so I'm gonna keep this for sure. It's probably the only stick foundation I actually like, and I'm actually pretty close to finishing it. Like, look at that. Maybe it'll be gone by next summer. The Anastasia Beauty Balm. I have quite a few shades of this too because again, they were sent to me in PR. I have shades 2, 3, and 4. Let me swatch these out. This is 2. Now I will say this isn't one of my favorite Wait, that was 3. Oh, just kidding. We're gonna be backwards swatches, so sorry. Okay, that was 3. I lied to you. This one is 2. Okay, 2 is a better match for me for sure. Now, I will say this isn't one of my favorite foundation. I don't really love the applicator. It's very deodorant stick-like to me, and I find that I really have to use something smoothing underneath this or else this will show my texture. But sometimes I do find myself using it if I'm doing a super duper minimal makeup look and just want a bit of coverage. This is what I'll grab for. So out of these shades, I'm gonna declutter 4, but I am gonna keep 2 and 3. Again, 2 is gonna be my most used shade, but I feel like 3 will be a nice shade when I have a little bit of tan on because this is a kind of product that I do wear more in the summer months. Okay, we gotta look at the Huda Beauty Easy Blur foundations. Again, this is the same thing as the One Size foundations, as the Anastasia. I need to be so pickier about foundations that I keep because I'm always like, oh, I can make it work, you know, I can adjust it with my concealer and bronzer and everything, but it's really just a pain in the butt and I need to only accept my true shades, which I think is vanilla. I don't think any of these are my actual shade. Hope you don't mind my leg here. Okay, let's swatch out these three shades. This is Creme Brulee 150G. Now the G means golden, so this is automatically too yellow for me. I think 150 is the right like shade range, just not the right undertone for me. And it is not fun to wear too yellow of a foundation, so this is gonna be a declutter. Next is Shortbread 200B. Now this is the shade that I've just been kind of making it work for me. This one is slightly better with the undertone. It's not as yellow, but it pulls kind of, what does the B stand for? Even that just looks a little bit too peachy on me, doesn't it? So I'm not gonna keep this one. And then the last shade is Chai 210B. So this one I think is just a bit deeper than the previous. This one's probably my best tan color. Maybe I'll hang on to this just because I did declutter so many foundations, and this does match my fake tan skin pretty well. I am still gonna self tan, just not as often. So I think I'm gonna keep this singular shade for now. For more foundations here, this is the Urban Decay Face Bond foundation. I have the shade at 5. Honestly, I don't really think I enjoyed this foundation much this year. I did do a whole dedicated wear test video to it, and I could make it work, but I'm not ever like, ooh, I want to use that Urban Decay foundation. Like, I never think of that. So I just don't think I like it that much, so I'm going to declutter it. I have a deeper shade of the Catrice Skin Tint. I'm going to keep this one because, like I said, I do really, really like this foundation. Okay, then we have these two. So the Hourglass Ambient Foundation has been my go-to foundations for events when I have a tan on. Like, it just looks perfect in, like, flash photography. I've worn it to a few weddings, or I wore it to the Taylor Swift concert. Like, I love this foundation. But this shade is in my deeper shade because I do normally tan for like events like that, so it's clearly not gonna match me. But I think I'll hang on to it a bit longer, see if I get any more use out of it next year, so I'll keep it for now. And then this is the IT Cosmetics CC Matte Foundation. I have the shade Light Warm. I believe this one is just too thick for me. I've never really been a fan of the IT Cosmetics foundations. I know some people really love these because of the like full coverage and the skincare benefits, but I think it's just a bit too much for me, so I'm gonna declutter this one. And then I have a few concealers here. I'm already gonna declutter these Anastasia ones. These were sent to me in PR and they're just too dark. I could never make them work no matter what shade I was. We have 3 concealers. You know, I love the Natasha Denona one. This is N5 though, which I would only use for spot concealing when I'm tan. It is my favorite one. I'll keep it. And I have a Mario concealer, again, signed by Mario himself. Okay, wait, I actually have quite a few Mario concealers here. Let's swatch through these, shall we? Oh wait, there's one more. That's 5 concealer. I have 5 Makeup by Mario concealers. Like, this is ridiculous. I've already swatched and used all these though, so let's just swatch them out. Oh my gosh, there's another one. Angela, I have 2 in the shade 160. How does that even happen? See, this is like when I get frustrated with myself because it's like, I could have done so much better, you know? Been smarter about the PR that I choose to keep, and it's a struggle, honestly. So this lightest one is the shade 120. And then this is 160, which I conveniently have 2 of. I'm being sarcastic. This is 140, which looks a bit yellowy to me. Yeah, this one is 180 and 200. Okay, looking at those, I'm definitely going to keep 120. That is a great shade for my pale skin. Okay, I actually kind of like 160 a bit. I think I swatched these out of order because 160 has a little bit more of a peachy undertone to it, and I do like that for under the eyes. So like I said, I have 2 160s. I don't need both. I guess I'll just keep the one that's signed because I guess that's cool, right? I don't need to keep both. And then 140 right here is just a bit too yellow. And these last 2 are just super deep too. I think even when I'm tan, I don't really fit into these shades. So I'm gonna declutter these last 2 as well. I am doing such a good job at decluttering right now. Like, I'm so proud of myself. Okay, I need to go back to this Bare Minerals Bare Pro Concealer. This is the shade Light 255 Neutral. Remember, I did keep the lighter shade of this one. I also just love the giant applicator on this concealer. I love a large doe foot. This is kind of the shade as those last 2 Mario ones. I did declutter those 2, but I think if I had a pick, I do like this concealer more than the Mario one, and I didn't keep many deeper shades of concealer, so I'm gonna hang on to this one for now. Let me grab all of these, the rest of this stuff. So this is what's left to go through. Most of this is in my lighter shade. I can already tell you a few I want to get rid of right away. Starting off with this Smashbox one, this is the Always On foundation. Now again, this one was sent to me in PR. I think this might be the lightest shade. It's F10 neutral, and this is so light for me. So opposite end of the spectrum here, this is like white, and it makes me look like disgustingly pale when I put it on my face, so I have to declutter this one for the shade. I'm also going to declutter this glossy foundation. This is the shade Very Light 1. I bought this one myself, and again, the shade is just too light. I held on to it. Oh wait, what's happening? I held on to it through my last declutter because I was like, oh, I'll use it as like a mixing shade to lighten up foundations. Guess how many times I've done that? Maybe like once or twice, but like not enough to keep holding on to this. So another declutter. This is the Fenty Beauty Eavesdrop in the shade 2. Now this is a foundation I truly do love. I had it in my deeper shade 5. I ended up finishing that this last year, but same thing with those last two foundations. The shade is just too light for me. I think shade 3 would be a better match, and I would try really hard to make this one work, and it looks like it works. Okay, wait, look at how good that's blending in though. Okay, wait, I'm like actually questioning myself right now because that blended in pretty nicely. Maybe I'll do a video with this one where I've done before, where it's kind of like using products that I might declutter, just kind of giving them one last chance. I think this is the product that needs just one more chance because I know I love this formula. We talked about the Sigma skin tint earlier. Now this is the shade 3, which is just slightly deeper than the shade 2, so it's kind of a good shade again in like the spring summer when I do have a bit of color to my skin. This One Size Beauty Turn Up the Base BBB cream. I've held on to this I think like through my last declutter as well, and I just don't like this. I don't like the consistency of this foundation. It's very thick. Like, look at how this comes out of there. This is just, yeah, it's too thick. It's really moussey. It's not fun to apply, so I'm gonna declutter this. This also has a pretty strong scent to it. It almost smells like it might have gone bad, so that just gives me another reason. This is gonna go in the garbage, actually. The Summer Fridays Sheer Skin Tint. I bought this year. I have the shade 2, and I was just like super into skin tints this summer. I think this was a good shade match. Let me triple check that. That's a tan shade for sure. It's pretty deep for being a shade 2, but I'm gonna keep this because it is super new and I did enjoy it this summer, even though it's my deeper shade. I received this Lancome foundation in PR this year. I was excited to try it because I've never really tried this formula. I don't think I like this foundation. I remember I just tried to wear it the other day and I was just not happy with how my skin looked and how products went on top of it. Actually, looking at it, it's quite a bit yellowy for being a C, which should be a cool undertone, so I'm going to declutter this one. I have the Ilia Skin Tint, another one I received in PR, and I think I did some kind of like short form content with this, and I only wore it, I want to say twice. I remember it being super glowy. I know you're supposed to use your hands to apply it. I actually think I need to give this foundation another chance. I don't think I've gotten enough use out of it to make a decision right now. I have 2 of the Makeup Forever HD Skin Hydra Glow foundations. I have one N06 and one Y06. The Y1 is more yellowy, so it's not the right shade, so I'm going to declutter this. This is another foundation where I'm like, it's okay, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible at the same time. How's the shade match on this one? Pretty pinky there. I don't know. I don't think I need to hang on to it if I'm not in love with it, right? Like, what's the point of keeping it? It could definitely be rehomed because it's still pretty new. Okay, I have another Makeup by Mari foundation. This is the shade 2N, so I did keep the shade 1C. How does this one look? Okay, wait, that's kind of a decent match too. Okay, wait, we have to go back. So that was 2N I just swatched. This is 1C that I hung on to from earlier. Clearly not going to be both shades. It's a really subtle difference between those two. I think 1C is a better match for me, but the 2N shade could be good for, again, when I do just have a little bit of color to my skin. So I do like this foundation, so I'm going to hang on to both shades. And they're both signed by Mario. Okay, I have some more concealers and quite a few duplicates in here. I have the Tower 28 concealer. I do like this concealer a lot. It is more of a serum concealer, kind of similar to the Natasha Denona one. I just prefer the Natasha one a bit more though. And with this one, I never remember which shade is better for me. So this is CC. Okay, it looks a little bit yellowy. I think this one is the better match. This is DTLA. Because you can see the DTLA has a little bit more of a peach undertone to it, which, like I said, I do prefer for the under eyes. So I think I'm gonna declutter CC. I don't need to hang on to this one any longer. Ooh, this ColourPop Pretty Fresh concealer. I honestly forgot it was living in the back of my drawer. I know this is a few years old at this point. I'm probably just gonna declutter it because I know it's old. Oh yeah, it has a bit of a smell to it too. Okay, yep. Declutter, but I did like this concealer. I have two of the NYX Bare With Me serum concealers. They're literally the same shade. Angela, why do you have two of these? Actually, I can tell you what happened. I love this concealer as a foundation, and I did finish one of them completely. I placed an order from Ulta. That order got lost, so they sent a new one, and I ended up with two of this concealer. Are they both swatched too, Angela? Embarrassing. Okay, which one is used more? Okay, that's just annoying. I'm gonna keep the one that looks like it has a tiny bit more usage to it. I have this e.l.f. Putty Under Eye Corrector. I think I'm gonna declutter this one because I really do like the Sigma one and the Catrice one way more than this. If you need a good drugstore under eye brightener, get the Catrice one for sure. Another under eye brightener. This one's by Flower Beauty. I think this one is pretty good, but I just tend to not love products in a stick format like this. I find them a bit too drying where I want something really creamy for under my eyes. Looks like I have a backup or slightly used of the Sigma Under Eye Corrector. I am going to keep this because I do go through that corrector pretty quickly, so this is an okay backup to have because I have finished it in the past. And then I have another Bare Minerals concealer. This is the shade 100 Cool. Remember I kept the shade 150 Cool. What does this one look like? I don't know, that could be a nice shade for me too. Okay, I actually kind of like that a lot. I am going to keep this lighter shade as well as this shade. We still have a whole nother drawer to go through, but here is the declutter pile so far. I am so happy with this, and then that is everything that I'm keeping in the drawer. Still have this whole second drawer to go through. This is more powders, primers, and setting sprays, so let me organize this. I think again, I'm going to start this off with the products that I know that I don't like, and I don't need to hang on to them anymore, which is why it's helpful to see just like everything kind of laid out together. First is the RCMA No Color Powder. Now this was my favorite powder for so many years for like setting my under eyes, setting my eyeshadow primer, but this is just pretty old now in my collection, and I have like the Huda Beauty one that I love, the Makeup Forever. Like you guys saw those loose powders, so I don't need to hang on to this one as well, and just it's old, so I should probably let go of it now. But this really is such a solid powder. If you guys watched my products I regret buying video, these were two products in it. The Hourglass pressed powder that I thought I would love because I do like most Hourglass powders, and then the Rare Beauty pressed powder is just such a deep shade for being the second lightest shade in the range. I went into more depth on these in that video, but these are going to be an easy declutter, but kind of sucks because I did purchase both of these myself this year. And then I also have the LYS powder. I bought this myself either last year or the year before, and I just never grabbed for it. I don't really think it does much for my skin. I don't love the whole triangle, so I'm gonna declutter this one. We need to talk about all these like baby setting sprays that I have here. I always like to hang on to these sizes like for traveling, so I have a mini Charlotte Tilbury, which is my favorite setting spray. We went over this, so this is the easy keep. And then I have two Urban Decay all-nighters. Like I said, I do really like the original all-nighter. I have an unopened one here as well. I guess I'll hold on to this one because I know I'll get to it at some point. I was hoping one of these was going to be more empty than the other, but they both feel pretty full. I'm gonna keep both because I use them for traveling, and I actually am doing quite a bit of traveling this year so far. I have this mini one, but this is like the vitamin C spray, and I don't know, because it's unopened, I'm not gonna hang on to this. I don't need to keep it because I have those other ones. Okay, a couple more sprays here. I have this Peach and Lily one. Now this is not really like a makeup spray. It's kind of more of a skincare spray. I really don't think it does much for me, and I'm also just not the kind of person to use skincare sprays as well. The only spray I like to use is like a Tower 28, like, you know, hypochlorous acid spray, so I'm gonna declutter this one. The One Size Beauty On Till Dawn. Now this one literally feels like you're spraying hairspray on your face. I know that so many people love this, and I actually feel like I haven't given this enough of a chance because I know this is supposed to be so long lasting, so I think I just need to try it someday on a day where I know I'm going to be wearing my makeup for a long time. Okay, we talked about this one earlier, the Watermelon Spray. I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter it just because, again, the sprayer kind of doesn't work. I don't really love the watermelon scent. And then I have this Catrice Dewy and Glow Fixing Spray. Now this is a very dewy spray, and I really just don't grab for a dewy spray anymore, so I'm going to declutter this. Okay, let's talk about some more primers over here. Okay, the One Size Oil Sucker Primer really is an oil sucker, and it sucked too much oil out of my skin. I really didn't like how my foundation looked on top of this, so I'm going to declutter it. I have two kind of stickier primers. The e.l.f. Power Grip I love. I mean, I'm actually running a little bit low on this, so I'm going to keep this for sure. And then I do have the OG like Milk Hydro Grip one. I think I'll hang on to this for now as well, because maybe once I finish this one, when I do want a long wearing gripper primer, I can grab for this one. And then this is the One Size Beauty Secure the Glow. It is more of a hydrating primer. It's not too dewy, which I like about it, so I have used this one quite a bit. I'm going to hang on to this one. I have two kind of more glowy primers, the Natasha Denona one and then the Say one, but this is in a deeper shade. It's called Rose Glow. This one, I actually haven't really used it on my face much because it adds so much rosiness to my skin and like quite a bit of color. Like, do you see that? But it's kind of pretty though. I used to have the shade Star Glow in this same one, which is just like the lighter kind of whitish shade, and I finished it. I really liked it, so I am going to keep this Rose Glow one. I think in the summer when I want, you know, more of that like bronzy look underneath my makeup with the little bit of pink in there, I think it could be really pretty. I am going to keep the Natasha Denona one as well. I have used this one quite a bit. Again, just in the summer months, I tend to use more glowy products, and I do like this one a lot. Now, this one is pretty new from What's Up Beauty, and I don't really think I've given it much of a chance, so I am going to keep it. And I believe it's just like a pretty, just like a lightweight, creamy, smoothing primer. Like, it feels good on the skin, so yeah, I'll keep it for now. Okay, let's go through this stack of loose powders right here. Automatically, I know I don't want this CoverGirl powder. I have so many more powders that I love, way much more than this, so this is a declutter. I have a mini of the Givenchy powder. This is before they reformulated it, so it's kind of like a hidden gem to have, so I'm gonna keep this for sure. I have the Sigma Soft Focus powder in Vanilla Bean. I do really enjoy this one as well, and I have used quite a bit of it. I could see myself actually like finishing this up, so I'm gonna keep it. This was another newer launch from Benefit this year, the Professional powder that launched with that primer that I showed earlier. Now, they say that this powder is translucent, but on me and my super fair skin, it does end up like tinting my foundation, and that's not what I want in a powder, so I am going to declutter this one, but like the powder itself does look really, really good. I'm just too fair to use this. Now, this is one I actually kind of forgot that I had. This is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder, and this is in the light pink shade. I believe it was either last year or the year before I finished one of these powders in just like the original translucent, and I really did enjoy it. But this pink one, I don't know, I might have to compare it to the other pink powders that I kept earlier. I honestly just kind of think I forgot about this one, but I would like to revisit it, so I'm gonna keep it. Okay, this One Size powder. I don't think I'm a fan of it, and honestly, just in general, I don't really think I like a lot of One Size products. Like, I haven't found a One Size product that just like absolutely blows me away, even though I know they have some like really staples for some people. But I have two shades of this. I have the Ultra Peach and Translucent. I mean, I can tell you right away the peach is gonna be way too deep on me. I thought it'd be kind of nice for like brightening and stuff, but I think I'd rather use pink than peach. So I'm gonna declutter the peach one. And then just looking at all the makeup that I'm keeping about 5 or 6 loose powders. So I don't think I need this one, because like if I were to rank them, this one would be at the bottom. So why would I hold on to it? Because it's just gonna take up space. Let's go back to these Hourglass powders. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna keep both of these because I have nothing else like it. They might be a bit old, but I don't think they've gone bad at all. So they're a keeper. And then in the back of my drawer, I found another one of my Charlotte Tilbury powders. I actually think I recently got this in PR, and I kept it because, like I said, I've gone through this powder many times before, so this is something I'm okay with having a backup of. So this is the shade 1, and then I do have a mini in the shade 2, which is my tanner shade, and I do have a cute baby pan in that. Now here's the part where I'm going to yell at myself. These are all the Natasha Denona powder foundations. She sent me every single light shade when it launched in PR, which is like super cool. I appreciate that, but when I have every shade, why do I feel the need to keep 5 shades? Like, what? I honestly don't even love a powder foundation to begin with. But I think this was my issue. Because I had all the shades in front of me, I was having like an even harder time deciding which ones to keep. Let's do some swatches. So this is the lightest and coolest one for sure. This is R2. That looks pretty good. It honestly might be a little bit too light. R4. I do like the rosy undertone of this though. I think for my pale shade, I'm gonna keep R4 because I think R2 is just gonna be a bit too white on my skin. And then these 3 right here, these are more yellowy, which I would normally keep for my tan shade. I think this one's just too light and too yellow. This is, oh, it's actually N2. Wait a second. These really do feel so smooth though on my hands. N2 looks like a pretty decent match. It almost looks a little bit too yellowy in the pan, but It actually sunk in pretty nicely. So I'm gonna get rid of N3. Even that one kind of sunk into my skin too. This is kind of tricky, honestly. Why do none of these look perfect? Do I just suck at shade matching myself? I honestly think that might be an issue. Okay, this one's too yellowy. I'm gonna declutter this. This is N2. I'm honestly kind of stuck between these two shades. Okay, but I narrowed it down from like 6 to 2. And I've already, okay, I actually think I need to just try these on my face to see which one is a better shade match for me. So I'm going to try these on my face pretty soon. I'm going to hang on to both for now. And then the last powder I have is the One Size Turn Up the Base. This is another powder foundation, the shade Fair 3. Now this one is a pretty good shade match for me. You can see I've used it a bit because like the wording is rubbed off there. Okay, wait, that one might be the best shade match out of all of those powder foundations. That one blended in really nicely. I'm going to keep that. I don't really use a powder foundation as like an actual powder foundation. I kind of use a powder like this more to set my face on areas where I just feel like I need a little bit extra coverage. Here's a quick overview again of everything I'm decluttering. I feel so good about this. Like this has just been taking up so much space in my drawers and I know I don't get use out of these products. I am going to do my best as always to donate as many products as possible. But take a look at this foundation drawer now. I can see the bottom of the drawer. I can see everything in here. I just kind of separated it by having all of my deeper shades in this little container. I have my lighter concealers, foundations, and then that backup Sigma corrector. And then here is what that powder and primer drawer looks like. It's still a pretty full drawer in here, but I kind of know everything that's in here and I can see every single product. So I feel so good about this first declutter. I will be doing more declutters on my channel, so stay tuned for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.